So I was noticing that, in press conferences, they always ask Juan Pablo to say something in Spanish. I always ask Patrick Carpentier to say something in French. And it seems to me that with our international following, we should be making more of an effort here at Rowdy.com to be bilingual.
Le curé de Camaret a les couilles qui pendent, et quand il s'assoit dessus, elle lui rentre dans le cul. Il bande, il bande, il bande.
Où est la salle de bain?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Rowdy.com Big Three, sitting alongside Francophone Buck Fever. I'm Bassmasters. Jerome Bus Cutler has today's three big burning issues in our favorite sport.
Yeah, we were at Richmond International Raceway over the weekend, Bassmasters, and we couldn't help but notice Justin Allgaier and J.D. Gibbs having a very intense conversation, slowly strolling through the infield. I even made note of it on my Twitter feed. It was so odd to see. And now we find out that Mr. Allgaier may not be back at Penske Racing as their nationwide driver next season.
It's like this, JD. I'm good on the curves. I'm really good on the curves. I'm good on the road courses.
I'm good on the curves? You think that's how he was selling himself? I'm good on the curves.
I can go low. I can go high. I'd be a great nationwide driver. I'd be a great developmental driver for the Joe Gibbs Racing program.
Justin, don't hire Buck Fever as your agent.
Yeah. It's interesting to me, a couple years ago, we were talking about this, and a couple years ago, we maybe more than a couple, there was a lot of conversation about young talent, developmental drivers, and up-and-coming drivers, and now look at it.
Not existent at all.
Where has that all gone? And I think in professional sports, it's important not just to be able to go out and grab a free agent or a guy that's already started to establish himself, but to bring up the next Denny Hamlin, to bring up the next Carl Edwards, the young guys, the next Jimmy Johnson. There's another, maybe not as good as Jimmy Johnson, but there's another young guy out there that's not in the Cup Series, that's capable of coming in and winning races someday.
Ricky Carmichael.
You want to find that person. You don't necessarily want to let other people find him. So if you can, grab a Justin Allgaier and see what he can do.
Now, he's looking around. Penske obviously has got Sam Hornish. They've got Brad Keselowski. They've got a lot on their hands, and they really kind of need to let Justin Allgaier go. And going over to Gibbs and racing in the Nationwide would be, I think, for him, a great
I don't want to read too much into this
conversation. But it would be cool, though.
Quote.
It'd be cool, especially since they don't have a fourth Cup car. They could slip him in a couple years.
And you think about the economic situation that we're in right now, that's taken away from the developmental driver program, I think. And if you can afford to develop some young guys, that could be a real competitive advantage for an organization in the years to come.
Okay, well, I hate to say this, but what if you take Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin and take them out of the Nationwide Series and say, we're going to put Justin in and we're going to see what happens?
Then you're not going to get any sponsorship for the Nationwide Series.
It's a catch-22, but maybe you are if he runs up front. Maybe you are if he runs up front.
All right, let's move on to issue number 2. Here's what Tony Stewart had to say about Stewart-Haas Racing's relationship with Hendrick Motorsports.
We're not sponges that are just feeding off of the Hendrick organization. We contribute and give back too. So it's nice to be in a situation where we're helping control our own destiny also. But it's a partnership. I mean, and it's hard for people to understand that that's truly what it is, and it's a partnership of 6 teams that are working together to to be successful. And it's smart, is what it is.
Now, yeah, not just a sponge.
I give more than I get.
And we heard Richard Petty offer similar sentiments a couple of weeks ago.
Carl Edwards said the same.
So, is the fact that Hendrick Motorsports is maybe having a down year by their standards directly affecting Stewart-Haas, because Stewart-Haas only got 1 car in the chase where they got 2 in the chase last season?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Obviously. I mean, I don't think the way I look at it is you've got the 48-24 garage, you've got the 588 garage, and then I think you've got the 1439 garage, and I think they're going to contribute to the organization as much as any of those other places. But the organization as a whole, I still see as Hendrick Motorsports being the core of this thing. The victims this year were Ryan Newman and Mark Martin. The fact that the equipment is just not as good relative to the other teams as it was last year when they got 5 of 6 guys in the chase and ran 1, 2, 3 in the chase at the end. So I obviously they've slipped a little bit, and obviously I think Ryan Newman and Mark Martin paid the price for that.
Do you think Tony Stewart is overstating his team's contribution?
No, he didn't really say what it was. What he said was, we're contributing as well, and I think that's accurate. It's not as if there's 2 equal organizations and they're contributing like this. To me, it's like there's another, as I say, there's another group of cars that can deliver some information to the team as a whole.
But to your point, the other day Carl Edwards said that something that came out of Richard Petty Motorsports helped them with the car? I was actually surprised to hear that. So it's not a stupid question. I think Tony Stewart does help Hendrick, and I think in the case Richard Petty does help Roush. And I was surprised to hear that. I really was.
All right, moving on to issue number 3. You know, every year you expect at least 1 or 2 chase victories to come from outside the top 12, outside the guys vying for the championship.
Yeah.
What non-chase driver out there do you think will make the most noise during the next 10 races?
Frosted tips. Jamie McMurray, he's had a great season so far, won some big races. He can win 1 more race in the chase, not be a champion, but have a hell of a year.
I like Juan Pablo Montoya. He's been fast all year long. Ever since that win at Watkins Glen, as you pointed out, Cutler, the man hasn't either started or finished outside the top 10. I think he's perfectly capable of winning on an oval, and I think maybe he's the kind of guy who could do it in the chase this year. So I think Montoya might make the most noise. I think he's got something to prove. Hey, I'm good enough and fast enough to be in this chase. We had a bunch of bad finishes that took us out of it, but all things being equal, I can run with these chase guys, and I think you'll see him do that a lot of the time.
But never won on an oval.
I think that could happen too. All right, for Buck Fever, I'm Bassmasters and the international edition of Rowdy. We will see you next time right here on the program.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Tschüss.
Linguini.
Ciao.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.